My grandfather died on a Tuesday, Richard Chen, hedge fund legend, the kind of man whose obituary appeared in the Wall Street Journal, the Financial Times and the New York Times simultaneously. The kind of man who'd made $2.3 billion in a single year, 2008 to be precise, by shorting the housing market while ordinary families lost their homes. He was ruthless, brilliant, utterly lacking in sentimentality, and completely convinced that love, real love, had to be earned, not given freely like some participation trophy, not assumed because of blood relation, earned through competition, through sacrifice, through demonstrable proof of worthiness. He believed this about everything: business partnerships, friendships, even family, especially family. Blood, he'd once told me over dinner at Le Bernardin, is an accident of biology. It means nothing without effort, without choice. People who love you because they have to aren't really loving you at all. They're just fulfilling an obligation, like paying taxes. I'd been 22 then, fresh out of college, still naive enough to argue. "What about Mum?" I'd asked. "She loves you unconditionally. That's what mothers do." He'd smile, that thin, calculating smile I'd come to recognise as his teach-in moment expression. "Your mother loves me because I've given her a comfortable life, because I've provided security, because I've been a useful father. Remove those things, Emma, and see how long that unconditional love lasts." I'd thought he was cynical, wrong, damaged by his own childhood poverty or his decades in finance or whatever made rich old men into philosophers of human selfishness. But I never thought he was right, not until he died, not until the will was read, not until I discovered he'd designed one final experiment to prove his theory. And we, his family, his flesh and blood, his legacy, we'd be the test subjects, whether we wanted to be or not. The funeral was massive, held at St. Patrick's Cathedral in Manhattan, because Grandpa Chen didn't do anything small. He'd converted to Catholicism in his 40s, not out of any genuine faith that I could detect, but because he thought it gave him better networking opportunities among old money New York families. "The Protestants already have their clubs," he'd explained once. "Catholics are hungrier, more ambitious, better business partners." Even religion was transactional for him. Even God was evaluated based on return on investment. Hundreds of people attended. I sat in the front pew watching an endless parade of politicians, CEOs, celebrities and socialites file past his casket. Most of them had never had a real conversation with him. They knew his money, his reputation, his power. But the man himself, the actual human being who taught me to play chess at 6, who'd once cried watching me graduate from law school, who'd spent every Sunday morning for 40 years reading 3 newspapers cover to cover while drinking exactly 2 cups of black coffee. That man was known by maybe 10 people, and 6 of us were sitting in the front row about to discover he'd saved his cruelest lesson for last. My mother, Susan Chen, sat to my right, 65 years old, elegant in black Chanel, her face a perfect mask of grief. She'd been Grandpa's oldest daughter, the responsible one, the one who'd done everything right, married well, raised successful children, maintained the family reputation, and in return he'd tolerated her. That was the best word for it. He'd never been cruel to Mum, but he'd never been warm either. Their relationship was polite, distant like co-workers forced to attend the same interminable meetings. To my left sat my brother David, 32 years old. wearing a suit that probably cost more than most people's monthly rent, fidgeting with his phone even during the eulogy. David was complicated. Tech entrepreneur, which is what we called him in polite company. Serial failure, which is what he actually was. He'd started 3 companies in the past decade. All 3 had burned through millions in investor money before collapsing. And yet he kept getting funding, kept getting chances. It's because he was charismatic, because he was a good storyteller, because he looked like he should be successful, tall, handsome, confident, in that particularly American way that mistakes self-assurance for competence. Grandpa had hated David's failures, but he'd also been fascinated by them. Your brother, he told me once, is a perfect example of moral hazard. He fails, but other people pay the price, so he never learns, never has to face real consequences. He's been insulated his whole life by family money and second chances. I wonder what he'd do if he actually had to earn something, if failure meant real loss. At the time, I'd thought it was just Grandpa being judgmental. Now I wonder if he was already designing his test, already imagining how David would react when the game began. Across the aisle sat my cousins. Richard Chen Jr., 38, named after Grandpa in what I always thought was an act of either tremendous ego or tremendous insecurity on Uncle Robert's part. Richard Jr. was an investment banker, successful by conventional measures. He made somewhere north of $800,000 a year, lived in a penthouse in Tribeca, drove a car that cost more than most people's houses, but he was also drowning in Manhattan lifestyle costs. The penthouse had a mortgage, the car was leased, his wife's shopping habits and his children's private school tuitions and his desperate need to keep up appearances meant he was always spending slightly more than he made, living on the edge of financial catastrophe while pretending to be wealthy. Grandpa had known this, had watched Richard Jr. overextend himself year after year and never offered help. He made his choices, Grandpa had said. Let him live with them. Next to Richard Jr. sat Jennifer Martinez, 34, my cousin on Mom's side. Jennifer was a social worker, single mother to a 6-year-old daughter named Sarah. She made maybe $58,000 a year in New York City, which meant she was basically poor by our family's standards. She lived in a tiny apartment in Queens, worked 60-hour weeks, and spent what little free time she had trying to give Sarah a childhood that didn't feel like poverty. Grandpa had met Sarah exactly 3 times before he died, 3 times in 6 years. He'd sent a savings bond for her birthday every year, $500, which was generous by normal standards, but laughably small compared to what he spent on business dinners. Jennifer never asked him for more, never asked for anything. She'd chosen social work knowing it would never make her rich, chosen purpose over profit, and Grandpa had never understood that choice. Your cousin is wasting her potential, he'd told me. She has a master's degree and she's making less than my housekeeper. It's not noble, it's stupid. Michael Chen, 29, sat at the far end of the pew, looking like he might fall asleep during the service. Medical resident, cardiac surgery. He was in his 4th year of residency, which meant he worked 100-hour weeks, slept 4 hours a night, and lived in a state of permanent exhaustion. He had $320,000 in student loans, made $65,000 a year, and wouldn't see real money for another 3 to 5 years when he finished training. Grandpa had actually respected Michael. He chose the hardest path, Grandpa had said, surgery, the most demanding specialty. He could have done dermatology or radiology, made more money, worked fewer hours, but he chose to cut into people's hearts and hold their lives in his hands. That takes something. It was the closest I'd ever heard Grandpa come to expressing pride in any of us. And finally, Aunt Linda, 58 years old, Grandpa's youngest child, divorced twice, living off alimony from her second marriage and whatever family money Grandpa occasionally threw her way. She'd never worked a real job, never built anything, never even tried. She'd married Rich at 23, divorced at 35 with a settlement, married Rich again at 38, divorced at 50 with another settlement, and now she was aging out of her strategy, no longer young enough to attract the kind of wealthy men she'd built her life around. Running out of money, running out of options. She'd asked Grandpa for help 2 years ago. He'd refused. You made your choices, Linda. You chose to be decorative instead of useful. Now you're neither. Figure it out. 6 heirs, 6 very different people, 6 sets of needs and wants and resentments, and one dead billionaire who'd spent his life studying human behaviour like a scientist studying lab rats. We should have known he wouldn't just give us money. We should have known there'd be a test, a game, a final lesson, but we didn't. Or maybe we didn't want to know. Maybe we wanted to believe that family, our family, was different. That blood meant something, that he'd loved us unconditionally, even though everything about his life suggested otherwise. The funeral ended. We filed out of the cathedral into a grey March afternoon. Light rain, expensive cars lined up along Fifth Avenue, people shaking hands, making small talk, pretending they were sad. I stood under an umbrella, watching everyone leave, and thought, this is it. This is the last time we'll all be together before everything changes, before we discover what he's done, before the game begins. I didn't know what the game was yet, but I could feel it coming. The way you can feel a storm building, even when the sky is still clear. 3 days later, we gathered at Grandpa's penthouse on Central Park West, 72nd floor, 3,000 square feet of minimalist luxury with views of the entire city. The place where he'd made his fortune, where he'd destroyed countless competitors, where he'd built his empire on other people's failures and weaknesses and miscalculations. His lawyer, Martin Schaffer, was already there when we arrived. Martin had been Grandpa's attorney for 30 years. Probably knew him better than any of us did. He looked uncomfortable. No, he looked guilty, like a man about to deliver news he knew would cause pain. We sat around Grandpa's dining table, the same table where I'd had Thanksgiving dinners, Christmas meals, birthday celebrations. But today it felt different, cold, hostile, like we were adversaries about to negotiate a business deal rather than family members gathering to mourn. "Thank you all for coming," Martin began, standing at the head of the table like he was chairing a board meeting. "I know this is difficult. Losing Richard is, he was remarkable, complicated, but remarkable. Can we just get to the will?" Richard Jr. interrupted, always impatient, always wanting to cut to the part where he benefited. "Of course," Martin said. He opened a leather folder, pulled out documents. Richard Chen's estate is valued at approximately $847 million after taxes, charitable donations, and specific bequests to staff and various institutions. There remains a trust fund of $500 million, are designated for family distribution. The room went silent. $500 million. I felt my heart rate spike. Felt that immediate, instinctive calculation. $500 million divided by 6 heirs equals $83.3 million each. $83 million. Life-changing money, generational wealth, freedom, security, power. I wasn't the only one calculating. I could see it in everyone's faces. David leaning forward, suddenly paying attention. Richard Jr. trying to maintain his cool banker expression, but failing to hide the hunger in his eyes. Linda actually smiling. Jennifer's hand going to her mouth, probably thinking about Sarah's future. Even Michael, exhausted Michael, perked up, half awake for the first time all day. However, Martin continued, and that single word dropped into the room like a stone into still water. The trust fund is structured. Unusually, Richard was very specific about this. He spent 2 years working with multiple law firms to ensure it was ironclad, legal, unbreakable. Unusually. That wasn't a word you wanted to hear when discussing inheritances. "What does that mean?" Mum asked, her voice tight. She already sensed this wouldn't be simple, wouldn't be fair, wouldn't be what we wanted. Martin pulled out another document, started reading in that careful lawyer voice that makes everything sound both official and ominous. Richard believed that love and support within families should be conditional, that they should be earned through demonstrated need and merit, that people value what they fight for more than what they're simply given. He also believed that scarcity reveals true character, that abundance allows people to hide who they really are, but limitation forces them to show their authentic selves. So he created what he called a dynamic distribution trust. Dynamic distribution. The words hung in the air, sounding innocuous but loaded with threat. The trust fund contains $500 million. Martin continued. Each of you, the 6 designated heirs, may submit requests for distributions at any time during the 12-month period following Richard's death. You may request funds for any purpose: medical expenses, education, housing, business investments, debt repayment, whatever you need. The trustee, which is me, acting as fiduciary, will evaluate each request and approve distributions based on demonstrated need and merit. That didn't sound too bad. Reasonable even. Submit requests, get evaluated, receive money based on need. It was paternalistic, sure, but not cruel, not grandpa. However, Martin said, and there was that word again, the trust operates on a zero-sum basis. The total amount that can be distributed is fixed at exactly $500 million. Every dollar granted to one heir proportionally reduces the maximum amount available to all other heirs. Silence, complete, total silence. Everyone processing, calculating, understanding, dawning like ice water down the spine. "Wait," David said slowly. "You're saying if I get $10 million, that comes out of everyone else's potential share?" "Yes," Martin confirmed. "If you receive $10 million, the remaining $490 million is the new total available to be distributed among the other 5 heirs. Their maximum potential distribution decreases proportionally with every dollar you receive." "That's," Richard Jr. started, stopped, searched for words. "That's insane. That's insane." "That's Grandpa," Aunt Linda said bitterly. "Always making us compete, always making us prove ourselves, always making us fight for his approval, his attention, his money, even from the grave, especially from the grave." She wasn't wrong. This was exactly the kind of thing Grandpa would design. A system that forced competition, that made family members into rivals, that put a price, a very specific, very visible price, on every relationship. "There's more," Martin said, which might have been the most ominous 3 words I'd ever heard. "You have exactly 12 months from today to submit distribution requests. After 12 months, the trust locks. Whatever amount hasn't been distributed to family will be donated to Richard's designated charities, primarily medical research, education, and the arts." So, there's a built-in incentive to claim as much as possible within the year, because whatever you don't take, none of you get. It goes to strangers, a timer, a deadline, creating urgency, creating pressure, ensuring we couldn't just sit back and wait, couldn't avoid playing, because every day we delayed was money potentially lost forever. Also, Martin continued, Richard wanted complete transparency. Every time any heir submits a request, all 6 heirs will receive notification. You'll know what everyone else is asking for, how much, for what purpose, the full justification. And here's the critical part. You'll have the opportunity to object, to submit written statements arguing that someone else's request isn't valid, that their need isn't real, that they don't deserve the distribution. I, as trustee, will consider all objections when making distribution decisions. I'm required to act as a neutral fiduciary, but I'm explicitly authorised to weigh family input in my evaluation. We could object to each other's requests, file formal complaints arguing that our siblings, our cousins, our mother didn't deserve money, didn't need it, shouldn't get it. This wasn't an inheritance. This was a gladiator arena, with family members as fighters, money as the prize, and everyone watching everyone else, evaluating, judging, calculating. "This is sick," Jennifer said quietly. She was crying. Not loud, obvious crying, just tears running down her face. "This is designed to make us hate each other, to turn family into enemies, to make us treat each other like competitors instead of..." "That's exactly what it's designed to do," Martin interrupted, not unkindly, just factually. Richard believed that in times of scarcity, people's true characters emerge, that you'd see who was genuinely selfless and who was selfish, who actually cared about family and who just wanted money. He viewed this as a social experiment, a test, a way to reveal truth. "By making us destroy each other?" Mum demanded, her voice sharp now, angry, protective. "By making us compete like animals? By putting price tags on our relationships? By making you choose," Martin said simply. "Every day for the next year, you'll have to choose between your needs and someone else's, between your child's future and your sibling's present, between what you want and what's fair." Richard believed those choices would reveal everything, would force you to examine what family actually means, what love actually costs, whether you're willing to sacrifice for each other when it matters, or whether ultimately you'll choose yourselves. He pulled out 6 folders from his briefcase, set them on the table. Inside each folder are the complete trust documents, the rules, the submission process, the objection procedures, and a personal letter from Richard to each of you. He wrote them in his final months, explaining his reasoning, explaining what he hoped you'd learn. I encourage you to read them, to think about them, to consider what he was trying to accomplish. He paused, looked at each of us in turn. There is one escape clause, one way out. If at any point all 6 heirs unanimously agreed to dissolve the trust and split the remaining funds equally, you can do that. Equal distribution. No more competition, no more evaluation. Just divide whatever's left evenly and walk away. But it has to be unanimous. All 6 of you must agree. If even one person objects, the zero-sum structure continues. Exit. A way out. But only if we all agreed. Only if we all chose fairness over advantage. Only if we all valued family over money. Grandpa had included it knowing we wouldn't use it, knowing someone would always want more, would always believe they deserved more, would always choose their own interest over collective peace. And looking around the table, seeing the calculations in everyone's eyes, the hunger, the need, I knew he was right. We wouldn't vote for equal distribution. Someone would object, someone would want to maximise, someone would play the game. Maybe all of us would. You can begin submitting requests starting Monday, Martin said. That's 3 days from now. I'll be reviewing and approving distributions on a rolling basis. Average processing time for uncontested requests should be 2 to 3 weeks. Contested requests will take longer, depending on the complexity of objections and the amount of documentation required. Any questions? 100 questions. 1,000 questions, but none of us could speak. We were all too busy processing, too busy calculating, too busy realising what this meant, what the next year would be like, what we'd become. We left the penthouse in silence. Elevator ride down 72 floors without anyone making eye contact. Some of us walked, some took cars, but none of us spoke because what was there to say? We were already strategizing, already thinking about what we'd request, how much, how to justify it, how to make our needs seem more urgent, more legitimate, more deserving than everyone else's. The competition had begun. The game was on. Even if we hadn't officially started playing yet, we were already thinking like competitors, already seeing family as obstacles, already putting prices on relationships. I walked home to my apartment in Brooklyn, 17 blocks, cold March wind, light rain turning to sleet. I needed the time to think, to process, to figure out what the hell had just happened. When I got home, I poured myself a drink, opened the folder, found Grandpa's letter. His handwriting sharp, precise, controlled, like everything about him. Emma, it began, if you're reading this, I'm dead, and you're probably angry, confused, maybe disgusted by what I've done. Good. That means you're thinking. That means you're questioning. That's what I want. I've watched you your whole life, Emma. Watched you compete in school, excel in law school, build your career. You're good at winning, at being the best. You got that from me. The killer instinct, the strategic mind, the ability to see 3 moves ahead. But I've also watched you judge others. Your brother David and his failures, your cousin Jennifer and her wasted potential as a social worker, your cousin Michael and his martyrdom. You love them, I know you do, but you also look down on them. You think your success makes you more deserving, more valuable. You think you've earned more because you've achieved more. I stopped reading, put the letter down, picked up my drink. He wasn't wrong. I did think that. I never said it out loud, never even fully admitted it to myself. But I thought I was smarter than David, more responsible than Linda, more strategic than Jennifer. I thought my success proved something, meant something, made me more. Now you get to prove it, the letter continued, or realise you're wrong. You have 12 months to decide. Are you the person you think you are? The one who values family and fairness? The one who'd sacrifice for others? Or are you the person I know you are, the one who'll do whatever it takes to win? The one who values victory over everything else? The one who'll rationalise any behaviour, justify any betrayal, sacrifice any relationship if it means coming out on top? I've structured this trust to reveal truth, not pleasant truth, not comfortable truth, but truth. You're going to see who your family really is, what they're really capable of, and more importantly, you're going to see who you really are, what you're capable of, what your love costs, what your loyalty is worth, what your principles mean when they're actually tested. It won't be pretty. I know that this will hurt, this will damage relationships, this will reveal things you wish you didn't know. But better to know than to pretend, better to see clearly than to live in comfortable delusion. Here's what I predict. David will ask for money for another failed business. He'll dress it up as innovation, as vision, as potential, but it'll be the same pattern he's always followed, taking other people's money, failing, facing no consequences, learning nothing. Richard Jr. will ask for money to maintain his lifestyle, to pay off debts he shouldn't have incurred, to keep up appearances that are bankrupting him. He'll rationalise it as investment, as strategic thinking, as smart financial planning, but it'll be desperation disguised as sophistication. Jennifer will ask for very little. She'll try to be noble, to take only what she absolutely needs, to prove she's better than the rest of you, and for a while that strategy might work. But eventually she'll realise nobility doesn't pay Sarah's college tuition. Pride doesn't provide security. Being the good one gets you nothing except the satisfaction of moral superiority while others eat your lunch. Linda will ask for everything she can get. She'll have no shame about it, no pretense of need versus want. She'll just take, and she'll spend it all within a year, because Linda has never understood the difference between having money and having wealth. She thinks money is for spending, for showing, for proving she's still relevant, still valuable, still somebody. Michael will ask for very little, not because he's noble like Jennifer, but because he's too exhausted to fight, too overwhelmed by residency to engage with family drama. He'll take what's easily available and ignore the rest, not out of principle, out of exhaustion. Your mother will try to stay above it, try to be the adult, try to keep everyone together, and she'll fail because the trust isn't designed to allow neutrality. It forces participation, forces choice. And when she's forced to choose, she'll discover something painful. Her children don't value her guidance anymore, don't trust her judgment, don't see her as the family glue. They see her as another person competing for their money, another obstacle to their payout. And that realisation will break her heart. And you, Emma, you'll play the game better than anyone. You'll be strategic, careful. You'll submit reasonable requests that are hard to object to. You'll build alliances. You'll time your submissions perfectly. You'll study everyone else's behaviour and exploit their weaknesses. You'll win, or at least you'll think you're winning. But here's what you won't realise until it's too late. Winning this game means losing everything else. Every relationship, every connection, every bit of family you have left. You'll end up with money and nothing else, and you'll have to decide if that was worth it. I know you hate me right now, or you will soon. That's fine. I'm dead. Your hatred can't hurt me. but let it teach you. Let this whole experience teach you. Because here's the truth I've learned in 83 years. Love is always conditional. Family is always transactional. Everyone has a price. Everyone has limits. Everyone will eventually choose themselves when the stakes are high enough. People who claim otherwise are either lying or haven't been tested yet. I've tested you, all of you, and you're about to prove me right. You're going to betray each other, hurt each other, choose money over connection, and afterward you'll try to rationalize it, to justify it, to explain why your choices were different, were necessary, were justified. But they won't be different. You'll have simply done what everyone does when they think no one's watching, revealed who you really are. Use the money wisely. Use it well. Use it to build something that lasts, or don't. Spend it all. Waste it. Prove that you learned nothing. Either way, you'll know. You'll know what your love cost, what your family was worth, what you're willing to sacrifice for money, and you'll carry that knowledge forever. That's my final gift to you. Not money, truth. Painful, uncomfortable, unavoidable truth. You're welcome. Grandpa. I read the letter 3 times, each time getting angrier, each time feeling more exposed, more seen. He'd predicted everything, not just what we do, but why we do it. He'd understood us better than we understood ourselves, had seen through all our self-deceptions and rationalizations and comfortable lies, and he'd designed a system that would force us to see what he saw, to know what he knew, to become what he believed we already were. I hated him for it, for being so cynical, so manipulative, so sure of his conclusions. But I also couldn't stop thinking, what if he's right? What if I am exactly what he says I am? What if we all are? What if this trust is just revealing truth rather than creating it? The questions kept me up all night. I sat at my kitchen table drinking coffee and staring at the trust documents, at the rules, at the submission forms, at the financial implications. And I couldn't help calculating. If I submitted a request for $1.7 million to pay off my mortgage, that would reduce everyone else's potential share by roughly $283,000 each. Was my debt-free status worth making my family $283,000 poorer? The logical answer was they wouldn't actually be poorer. They just have access to less of Grandpa's money. Money they hadn't earned, money they had no inherent right to, money that was being given to them. But that's not how it would feel. It would feel like I was taken from them, stealing from them, choosing my comfort over their needs. And that feeling, that awareness that every dollar I received was, dollar they lost would poison everything, every request, every approval, every objection. We'd all be constantly calculating, constantly evaluating, constantly judging whether someone else's need was real or fake, legitimate or selfish, deserving or exploitative. We'd become accountants of each other's worthiness, auditors of each other's suffering, judges of each other's lives. Grandpa had turned the family into a competition, love into a marketplace, connection into a zero-sum game, and we were about to prove he was right to do it because I was going to play. I knew I was going to play. The only question was, how well could I play? How much could I get? How effectively could I maximize my distribution while maintaining enough relationships to avoid getting completely shut out? It was already starting. The strategic thinking, the calculation, the optimization. I was already becoming what Grandpa predicted I'd become. And it had been less than 12 hours since the will was read. By Monday morning, I'd have my first request ready. By the end of the month, we'd all be at each other's throats. By the end of the year, we'd barely recognise each other or ourselves. The game had begun. Even if we hadn't made our first moves yet, we were already thinking like competitors, already seeing family as obstacles, already putting prices on love, and there was no way back, no way to unknow what we now knew, no way to pretend we were better than this, than him. We were about to prove Grandpa right about all of it, and that more than anything else, more than the money, more than the competition, more than the loss, that was what hurt most. Knowing he'd seen us clearly, knowing he'd been right. First moves and first blood. I spent the entire weekend analysing the situation. That's what lawyers do. We analyse, we find angles, we build strategies, we turn emotional chaos into logical frameworks, because logic is controllable and emotions aren't. The trust had $500 million, 6 heirs. If distributed equally at this moment, that's $83,333 each. But it wouldn't be distributed equally. That was the entire point. We all had different needs, different justifications, different levels of leverage, different abilities to make compelling arguments. And whoever played this game best, whoever understood the rules most deeply, whoever anticipated others' moves most accurately, whoever executed their strategy most effectively, would walk away with more. Potentially much, much more. My competitive advantage was simple. I had legitimate, defensible expenses that no one could reasonably object to. I'd bought a co-op apartment in Brooklyn 3 years ago for $2.1 million. I'd taken out a mortgage because I didn't want to liquidate my investment portfolio, basic financial planning. I still owed $1.7 million at 6.5% interest. That meant I was paying roughly $140,000 per year just in mortgage payments. If I paid off that debt using trust funds, I'd save $140,000 annually. That's not lifestyle spending. That's not luxury. That's smart financial management. Eliminating high interest debt, building equity, creating long-term stability, hard to argue against, hard to call greedy, hard to object to. So Monday morning, exactly 72 hours after the will was read, I submitted my first request through the online portal Martin had set up. Amount, $1,700,000. Purpose, mortgage debt elimination. Justification, eliminating high interest debt allows for better financial stability and long-term wealth building. This distribution will save approximately $140,000 in annual interest and principal payments, redirecting those funds toward retirement savings and long-term financial security. This is a fiscally responsible use of trust funds that will benefit me for decades and aligns with sound financial planning principles. No objections anticipated on grounds of need or merit. I hit submit at 9:47 a.m. By noon, I got automated confirmation that all 6 heirs had been notified of my request. By 2 p.m, my phone started buzzing. Text from David. Really? You going first? Taking $1.7 million right out of the gate? Setting the tone, I guess. Nice. I could hear the sarcasm even through text. Text from Richard Jr. Smart move. Establishing early precedent that real estate debt elimination is valid. I'll be submitting similar requests soon. Well played. That one felt almost complimentary, like we were players in a game and he was acknowledging a good opening move. Text from Jennifer. I'm sure your Brooklyn apartment is very important, Emma. Some of us have actual needs. That one stung, because she was right and wrong simultaneously. I didn't need my mortgage paid off. I could afford the payments, but I could use the same argument against almost anything she might request. Did she need money for Sarah's private school? Public school exists. Did she need money for college savings? Student loans exist. The entire concept of need became slippery once you started examining it. Email from Mum. Emma, honey, I'm not judging your request. I understand wanting to be debt-free, but I hope you thought about how this might look to others. Some family members are struggling more than you are. Just something to consider. Translation. You're being selfish and everyone knows it. The call from Aunt Linda came at 6 p.m. I was still at work reviewing contracts for a client when my phone lit up with her name. I almost didn't answer, almost let it go to voicemail, but curiosity won. Emma, honey, hi, how are you holding up? I know this week has been hard for all of us. Her voice dripping with fake sympathy, with strategic sweetness. I'm fine, Linda, what's up? Well, I just wanted to talk to you about your trust request, your mortgage payoff. What about it? I'm not judging, honey. Really, I'm not. I understand you want to be debt-free. That makes total sense. But did you think about how this looks? You make $400,000 a year as a lawyer. You can absolutely afford your mortgage payments. Some of us, can't even afford food half the time. That was bullshit, and we both knew it. Linda lived in a rent-controlled apartment on the Upper East Side that she'd had for 30 years. Her rent was maybe $2,000 a month. She got alimony from her second ex-husband. Not a lot, but enough. She wasn't starving, she wasn't suffering. She was just used to a lifestyle she could no longer afford and was bitter about it. Linda, I'm requesting funds for a legitimate financial purpose. You're requesting funds you don't need, Emma. That's the difference. I might need trust money for legal fees because my landlord is trying to push me out. I might need it to buy a new apartment because I'm about to lose my home. I might need it for actual survival. And you're using it to pay off a mortgage you can easily afford. You're taking $1.7 million that could go to someone else, to Jennifer's daughter's education, to Michael's medical school loans, to people who actually need it. We all need it, Linda. That's the point of Grandpa's game, to make us argue about who needs it more. You didn't have to be the first one to play. She hung up before I could respond, and I sat there in my office feeling something I didn't want to feel. Guilt, shame, the uncomfortable awareness that she wasn't entirely wrong. I could afford my mortgage. I made good money. I'd be fine without the trust distribution. But I'd submitted anyway. Why? Because this was a competition. Because I wanted to win. Because I wanted to maximise my share. Because I didn't want to be the fool who asked for nothing while everyone else took. That's the truth I didn't want to admit. Not to Linda. Not to myself. By the end of that first week, 4 more requests had been submitted. I read them all, studying each one like a lawyer, reviewing evidence, looking for weaknesses, looking for angles, looking for justifications to object or reasons to support, already thinking tactically, already seeing family as opponents. David's request, $3,000 for business development capital. His justification was elaborate, professional, clearly written by someone he'd hired to make it sound legitimate. The artificial intelligence and machine learning sector is experiencing exponential growth. I had developed proprietary algorithms and have secured preliminary investor interest. contingent on personal capital investment demonstrating commitment. This $3 million will fund initial product development, prototype creation and market validation, positioning the company for Series A funding within 18 months. Projected ROI, 10x, 15x within 5 years. This is not lifestyle spending. This is strategic wealth building that will ultimately benefit the entire family through increased asset values. I read it twice, then laughed out loud in my apartment. This was David's 4th startup attempt. His previous 3 had raised a combined $12 million from investors and returned exactly 0. He'd burned through other people's money 3 times already, and now he wanted trust money to fund attempt number 4. The AI space was exploding, sure. Everyone and their cousin had an AI startup. Most would fail. David's would definitely fail because David always failed. Not because he was stupid, he wasn't, but because he was undisciplined. He chased trends instead of solving problems. He pivoted constantly. He blamed external factors when things went wrong. He never learned from mistakes because he never believed his failures were his fault. But his request was clever. He'd framed it as investment rather than expense, as wealth building rather than lifestyle support, as strategic thinking rather than desperation. He'd even included the phrase, benefit the entire family, to make it sound altruistic. It was manipulative, transparent, and probably effective with people who didn't know his history. Richard Jr.'s request, $5,000 for family recreational property acquisition. Translation, he wanted to buy a summer house in the Hamptons. His justification was somehow even more elaborate than David's. The Chen family lacks a centralised gathering space. This has contributed to our geographic and emotional fragmentation. I propose acquiring a property in the Hamptons that would serve as a family compound, a place where all of us, including future generations, can gather for holidays, summers, important milestones. Real estate in the Hamptons has appreciated an average of 7.2% annually over the past decade, making this both a lifestyle enhancement and a sound investment. The property would be held in trust for the family, with usage agreements ensuring equitable access. This is about building infrastructure for family unity, about creating legacy, about investing in connection. I actually had to give him credit. It was brilliant manipulation. He'd taken, I want a beach house, and repackaged it as, I want to save our family. He'd wrapped selfish desire in the language of altruism, made it sound like he was sacrificing, taking on the burden of property management for our benefit. And he'd thrown in the real estate appreciation numbers to make it sound financially responsible. The phrase future generations was particularly clever, making it sound like this was about our children, our grandchildren, about building something that would outlast us, when really it was about Richard Jr. wanting a summer house he couldn't afford on his own. Michael's request, $350,000 for medical education debt elimination. This one was straightforward, honest, almost painfully simple. I have $320,000 in medical school loans at an average interest rate of 6.8%. Monthly payments are $12,400. This debt will take 15 years to repay and cost approximately $185,000 in interest. Eliminating this debt now will allow me to practice medicine without the burden of loan repayments, redirect income toward retirement savings, and potentially choose career paths based on passion rather than salary requirements. This is a one-time request for a clearly defined need, no additional requests anticipated. Reading Michael's request made me feel something, not guilt exactly, but awareness. Awareness that his $350,000 was legitimate in a way mine wasn't. He'd borrowed money to become a doctor, to spend a decade in training, to learn how to cut into people's chests and hold their lives in his hands. That debt was real, necessary, and he was asking for exactly what he needed. No padding, no inflation, no strategic exaggeration. Just, here's my debt. Here's what it costs to eliminate it. Please help. It made my $1.7 million mortgage request look less pure by comparison. Made me feel like maybe I was taking money that should go to him, but not enough to withdraw my request, not enough to actually change anything. Jennifer's request, $200,000 for education savings account. Her justification was brief, almost apologetic. My daughter, Sarah, is 6 years old. I'm requesting $200,000 to establish an education savings account that would cover her schooling from elementary through college. This includes approximately $150,000 for private school tuition, K-12, and $50,000 for college contribution. As a single mother earning $58,000 annually in NYC, I cannot save adequate education funds while covering basic living expenses. This one-time distribution would ensure Sarah has educational opportunities regardless of my financial situation. This is my only request. I will not submit additional requests during the trust period. $200,000, less than what I was asking for, less than Michael's loans, a fraction of what David and Richard wanted, and she'd explicitly said it was her only request, that she wouldn't ask for more. She was trying to be the good one, the reasonable one, the one who took only what she needed and left the rest for others. And reading her request, knowing her situation, understanding how hard she worked for how little money, it made me feel like garbage, made me feel greedy, because my mortgage payoff was about convenience, about optimization, about building wealth. Her request was about her daughter's future, about giving Sarah chances Jennifer never had, about breaking cycles and creating possibilities. But I still didn't withdraw my request, still didn't change anything, because I'd already submitted, already established my position, already started playing the game. And changing now would look weak, would look like I was susceptible to emotional manipulation, would set a precedent that I could be guilted into withdrawing. So I let it stand. Let my $1.7 million request sit there exposed, waiting for approval, knowing it made me look selfish, knowing Jennifer's request made me look worse, knowing and not caring enough to stop. That Sunday, Mom hosted dinner at her apartment. She'd been doing Sunday dinners for years. It was her thing, her way of keeping the family together, of maintaining traditions, of pretending we were still the kind of family that gathered regularly, that enjoyed each other's company, that actually liked spending time together. But tonight felt different from the moment I walked in. The tension was immediate, physical. You could feel it in the air like electricity before a storm. David arrived 15 minutes late, wearing a hoodie and jeans to what was supposed to be a family dinner, making a statement, showing he didn't care about Mum's expectations or anyone's judgment. Richard Jr. came straight from the office in a $3,000 suit, still on his phone when he walked in, making everyone wait while he finished a call, demonstrating his importance, his busyness, his life beyond this family. Jennifer came with Sarah, who looked confused about why everyone was so tense, why the adults weren't smiling, why nobody was talking to each other. Michael came in scrubs straight from a hospital shift, looking like he might fall asleep in his chair. Aunt Linda came overdressed in designer clothes that were probably 10 years old but still expensive looking, trying to maintain appearances of wealth she no longer had. We sat around Mum's dining table, the same table where we'd celebrated Thanksgivings and birthdays and graduations, where we'd argued about politics and religion and whose turn it was to host next holiday, where we'd been family, for better or worse. But tonight it felt like a negotiation table, like we were adversaries forced into proximity, enemy generals meeting under a flag of truce. "So," Mum said, trying to sound cheerful and failing completely, "how is everyone? How's everyone holding up?" Silence. Nobody wanted to answer. Nobody wanted to reveal anything, because information was power now. Information was leverage. Showing weakness meant giving others ammunition. Showing strength meant making yourself a target. "I submitted my trust request," David announced, breaking the silence like shattering glass. $3 million for the new startup. Anyone want to object?" He was smiling, actually smiling, challenging us, daring someone to say something, treating it like a game, like this was fun. "I object," I said calmly, deliberately, meeting his eyes. "You've failed 3 times, David. 3 separate companies, $12 million in investor money burned. Why should the trust fund your 4th failure?" His smile vanished. Those weren't failures. They were learning experiences, iteration. That's how the startup ecosystem works. You try things, some work, some don't. You iterate and improve. That's the process. "The process of losing other people's money," I said, "the process of never facing real consequences for your decisions. The process of always having someone else bail you out. The trust should prioritise people with actual needs. Michael's loans, Jennifer's daughter's education, not fund your next gambling adventure." "Gambling?" His voice rising now, getting angry. "I'm building something. I'm trying to create instead of just shuffling papers and defending corporations that screw people over. At least I have ideas. At least I'm trying to make something real instead of being a sellout lawyer who—" "Enough," Mum said, her voice sharp, loud. I'd rarely heard her yell. "We're not doing this. We're not attacking each other. This is not what family—" "Why not?" Richard Jr. interrupted, pouring himself wine like this was entertainment. "That's what Grandpa wanted, right? That's the whole point of the trust. To make us compete, to make us show who we really are. So let's fight. Let's be honest. Let's stop pretending we're above this." "Then let's talk honestly," Jennifer said, her voice quiet but intense. She'd been silent until now. "Let's talk about who actually needs this money. Emma, you make $400,000 a year. You can afford your mortgage. David, you've raised millions from investors over the years. You have access to capital. Richard, you're a banker making $800,000 annually. You all have money. I'm a social worker. I make $58,000 a year in New York City. I can barely afford rent. Sarah's school costs $15,000 annually and I'm drowning. But sure, let's prioritise Emma's mortgage and David's 4th failed startup and Richard's beach house. Let's make sure the people who already have money get more, while my daughter might not go to college because I can't save." The table went completely silent because she was absolutely devastatingly right. She was the only one who actually legitimately needed the money, who was actually struggling, actually vulnerable. The rest of us were, in various ways, asking for luxuries, for optimization, for wants disguised as needs. But Jennifer was asking for survival, for basic security, for her child's future. And we'd been treating her request as equal to ours, as just another claim, just another number. "Jennifer," Richard Jr. said carefully, using his banker voice, his negotiation voice. "No one is saying you don't need help. But the trust isn't about need alone. It's about maximising the efficient use of funds. Emma's mortgage payoff is financially smart. It eliminates high-interest debt. My property acquisition is both lifestyle enhancement and investment. Real estate appreciates. We're thinking long-term. We're thinking strategically. You're thinking about yourselves," Jennifer said, voice shaking now, crying. "All of you. You're looking for excuses to justify taking money you don't need, finding ways to rationalize selfishness, using words like strategic and optimization and investment to hide the fact that you're greedy, that you're taking money that could help people who actually need help, while my daughter might not have opportunities because you can't resist optimizing your already comfortable lives." "That's emotional manipulation," I said. The words came out before I could stop them. Cold, clinical, cruel, and immediately I regretted them because Jennifer looked at me with such hurt, such betrayal, like I'd slapped her. "Emotional manipulation?" Her voice barely above a whisper. "Emma, she's my daughter. She's 6 years old. And you think me wanting her to have an education is manipulation? I think using her to guilt us into giving you money is manipulation. Yes." The words kept coming, kept digging. I couldn't stop. "I think you're positioning yourself as the noble one, the one with pure motives, the one who's better than us, and using your daughter as a shield, as proof of your worthiness, when really you're playing the same game. We all are. You're just pretending you're not." Jennifer stood up, grabbed Sarah's hand. "We're leaving. I can't do this. I can't sit here and watch you people turn into monsters over money." She walked out, door slamming, Sarah crying, confused and scared. And we all sat there, knowing we'd crossed a line, knowing we'd hurt her, knowing we'd said things that couldn't be unsaid, and knowing we didn't care enough to stop. Because the money mattered more than Jennifer's feelings, more than Sarah's future, more than being good. Mum was crying now, silent tears streaming down her face. "This is what he wanted," she said quietly. "Richard wanted this, wanted to watch us destroy each other, wanted to see us compete like animals, and we're doing exactly what he predicted. We're proving him right." "Then let's stop," Michael said. He'd been silent the entire dinner, just sitting there exhausted, watching, but now he spoke. "Let's invoke the escape clause. Vote to split the money equally. End this." "I vote yes," Mum said immediately. "Equal split. I don't care about maximising my share. I don't care about strategy. I want my family back." "I vote yes too," Michael said. "I'll take my equal share and walk away. This isn't worth it." They looked at the rest of us. Me, David, Richard Jr., Aunt Linda. 4 votes needed. Unanimous agreement. One path to peace. One way to end the game before it destroyed us. "I vote no," Linda said, firm voice. "No hesitation. I'm sorry, Susan, I love you, but I need more than an equal split. I have expenses. I have needs, real needs, and an equal split won't cover them. I need to maximise my distribution. I have to vote no. I vote no, Richard Jr. said. Same reason I've been planning based on accessing significantly more than $83 million. I've made decisions, I've built strategies. I can't walk away from that. I vote no. David looked at me. I looked at him. We were the swing votes, the deciding factors. If we both voted yes, it would be 4-2. Not enough, needed unanimous, but it would send a message, would show Mum and Michael weren't alone, that some of us still valued family. If we voted no, it would be 4-2 the other way. The game continues, the competition persists, the destruction accelerates. I vote no, I said quietly, not looking at Mum, not able to meet her eyes. I'm sorry, Mum, I'm not ready to walk away, not yet. David nodded slowly. Me neither, I vote no. 4-2. The equal split fails. The escape clause unused. The game continues and Mum looked at us, her children, her babies, the people she'd raised and loved and sacrificed for, and I saw something break in her eyes, some hope she'd been holding on to, some belief that we were better than this, that we were different, that family mattered more than money. We'd just proved her wrong, proved that when it came down to it, when we actually had to choose, we'd choose ourselves every time. We'd choose money over her, over each other, over everything. The dinner ended 20 minutes later. Awkward small talk, fake politeness, everyone avoiding the elephant in the room. We just voted to destroy our family for money. We left separately, drove home in our expensive cars to our expensive apartments and houses, and I lay in bed that night staring at the ceiling, unable to sleep, thinking, I just chose money over my mother. I just hurt Jennifer to protect my mortgage payoff. I just called a single mother's concern for her daughter manipulation. I just became exactly what Grandpa predicted I'd become. Selfish, calculating, willing to hurt people I claimed to love for money I didn't even need. And the worst part, the absolute worst part, was that I didn't regret it enough to change, didn't feel bad enough to withdraw my request, didn't care enough to choose differently. I wanted to win more than I wanted to be good, wanted money more than I wanted Mum's approval, wanted to maximise my share more than I wanted to preserve relationships. Grandpa had been right about me, about all of us. We were exactly what he thought we were, and we just spent one evening proving it beyond any doubt. The deepening war. 2 weeks after that disastrous dinner, Martin approved the first batch of distributions. Mine, $1.7 million for mortgage payoff, approved without objection. Michael's, $350,000 for loan elimination, approved without objection. Jennifer's, $200,000 for Sarah's education fund, approved without objection. 3 requests, 3 approvals, total distributed $2.25 million, remaining trust balance $497.75 million, and just like that, I was debt-free. My bank account showed an income and wire transfer for the exact amount of my outstanding mortgage. I logged into my mortgage services website and clicked Pay Off Loan, entered the amount, confirmed, and watched my debt balance drop to zero just like that. Years of monthly payments, years of interest accumulating, years of carrying that weight, gone, eliminated in a single transaction. I should have felt relief, triumph, freedom, but mostly I felt empty, hollow, because I'd gotten what I wanted, what I'd asked for, and it had cost me Jennifer's respect, Mum's approval, my own sense of being a good person. Was it worth it? I sat at my kitchen table looking at the $0 balance on my mortgage statement and honestly didn't know. The money was real, the benefit was real, but so was the damage. So was the knowledge of what I'd become to get it. David's $3 million startup request remained pending, in review, being evaluated. Martin had sent him a notice requesting additional documentation, financial projections, business plan details, evidence of investor interest, proof of concept. David had submitted everything, had hired someone, probably expensive, to create professional-looking documents that made his idea sound legitimate, viable, worth investing in. But the objections were already flowing in. I'd submitted mine formally through the portal, a 3-page document arguing that funding a fourth failed startup was irresponsible use of trust funds, that David had demonstrated a pattern of failure, that his request prioritised personal ambition over genuine need, that the trust should focus on stability and security rather than high-risk speculation. Richard Jr. had objected to, with his own strategic twist. If anyone was getting business development funding, it should be someone with a proven track record, someone who'd actually succeeded, someone like him. He'd actually submitted his own competing business request right after objecting to David's brilliant move, making it a zero-sum choice. Either fund David's uncertain startup or fund Richard's guaranteed investment opportunity. Not both, never both. Jennifer had objected in a way that cut deeper than anything Richard or I wrote. Her objection was a single paragraph. My daughter Sarah needs educational security. Medical resident Michael needs debt relief. Other family members have genuine financial hardships. David wants $3 million to start his fourth company after failing 3 times. This is not a difficult choice. The trust should support needs, not gambles. I strongly object. Simple, emotional, devastating, because she was right, objectively, morally, practically right. Mum had abstained from voting, sent Martin a formal notice saying she couldn't vote against her own son, but also couldn't in good conscience vote for a request she didn't believe in. So she was removing herself from the decision entirely, letting the trustee decide without her input. Only Aunt Linda voted to approve David's request, not because she supported him, not because she believed in his startup, but because she wanted to establish precedent that business investments were valid trust purposes, because she was planning her own business investment request. She'd mentioned it at dinner, some friend's boutique hotel business that was a guaranteed money maker. She wanted David's request approved so she could point to it when her turn came. Pure strategy, pure self-interest, using David's desperation to pave the way for her own request. The objection period lasted 30 days per trust rules. During that time, we all lobbied each other, called, texted, emailed, trying to change minds, trying to build alliances, trying to convince each other that our position was correct, our judgment sound, our motivations pure. It was like political campaigning, but more personal, more vicious, more destructive. David called me drunk at 2 a.m. on a Wednesday. I was asleep, dreaming about something I couldn't remember later. My phone, buzzing on my nightstand, pulled me awake. David's name on the screen. I answered because, despite everything, he was still my brother. "Emma!" he slurred, definitely drunk, possibly high. My dear sister Emma, my successful, accomplished, perfect sister. "David, it's 2 a.m. What do you..." "You're a bitch," he interrupted. You know that? A bitch. You're trying to sabotage me. You submitted a formal objection to my request because you're jealous, because you've always been jealous, because I have ideas and vision, and you're just a fucking corporate lawyer, a sellout. David, no, let me finish, he said, voice rising, getting aggressive. You made $400,000 last year defending companies that exploit workers, that pollute the environment, that maximize profits while people suffer. And you have the audacity to judge me, to question my ethics, to call my work illegitimate. I'm trying to build something, trying to create, trying to make the world better. And you're trying to stop me because you're bitter, because you hate yourself, because you know you've wasted your life on meaningless bullshit and you can't stand watching me actually try to do something meaningful. Are you finished? I asked, calm, cold, refusing to engage with drunk David, with hurt David, with David who was lashing out because he was scared and desperate and losing. Fuck you, Emma. Seriously, fuck you. He hung up. I sat there in the dark, phone in my hand, feeling nothing. I should have felt hurt, angry, something, but I'd gone numb, emotionally flatlined. I texted Mom. David just called me drunk at 2 a.m, screaming at me about my trust objection. I won't be speaking to him until he apologises. Just wanted you to know. Her response came immediately. She must have been awake. He's your brother. He's struggling. Please be kind. Be kind? How was I supposed to be kind when he was calling me drunk, attacking me, blaming me for his failures? How was I supposed to show compassion when he was trying to take $3 million for a business that would certainly fail? How was I supposed to be the bigger person when being small was the only way to protect my interests? I blocked his number, went back to sleep, and didn't think about it again until Martin's decision came through 6 weeks later. David's $3 million request denied. After careful review of the applicant's business history, financial projections and objections from multiple family members, the trustee has determined that this request does not meet the threshold for responsible use of trust funds. The applicant has a documented history of business failures resulting in total investor losses exceeding $12 million. While the current business proposal shows promise, the risk profile is too high given past performance. The applicant may resubmit with revised justification and reduced amount, or may submit requests for other purposes. Denial does not preclude future requests. David exploded. I got the texts. Everyone got the texts before I even finished reading Martin's decision email. A stream of messages to the family group chat. Fuck all of you. You've ruined me. I had investors waiting. I had deals ready, and you killed it. You killed my dream because you're jealous, because you're petty, because you can't stand seeing me succeed. I hope you're proud of yourselves. I hope you enjoy your blood money. I hope you can live with what you've done. Mum removed him from the group chat, just deleted him, created a new family group. Without David, we didn't hear from him for 3 weeks. He disappeared, stopped answering calls, stopped responding to texts, stopped showing up to anything. Mum was frantic, called me every day, asking if I'd heard from him, asking if I thought he was okay, asking if I thought he might hurt himself. He's just being dramatic, I told her. This is what David does. He throws tantrums when he doesn't get what he wants. He'll cool off and come back with a new strategy. He's your brother, she said. He's hurting. Can you please just reach out? Just check on him. Just show him someone cares. He called me a bitch at 2 a.m. and blamed me for ruining his life. I'm not reaching out. But I did worry. Despite everything, despite my anger and resentment and exhaustion, I did worry because David had always been fragile underneath the confidence, had always been more vulnerable than he pretended. And I knew rejection crushed him, knew failure destroyed him, knew he measured his worth by external validation. And we'd just given him the biggest rejection of his life, told him formally, officially, legally, that he wasn't worth investing in, that his ideas were worthless, that his vision was flawed, that he was flawed. I knew that would hurt, knew it would break something in him, but I'd done it anyway, had submitted my objection, had argued against him, had contributed to his denial, because protecting my interests mattered more than protecting his feelings, because winning mattered more than being kind. 3 weeks after his denial, David submitted a new request. I got the notification on a Thursday afternoon. Opened it expecting another business proposal, another startup pitch, another attempt to get funding for his dreams. Instead, $500,000 for comprehensive mental health treatment. Amount, $500,000. Purpose, mental health treatment. Justification, I'm experiencing severe depression and anxiety directly caused by family trauma and financial stress related to the trust process. I'm requesting funding for inpatient treatment at a residential mental health facility in Arizona that specialises in complex trauma, family dysfunction, and financial stress disorders. The program is 90 days intensive therapy, including individual counselling, group therapy, psychiatric medication management, and holistic wellness approaches. Total cost, including facility fees, medical care, and aftercare planning, $485,000. I am also requesting $15,000 for travel, transitional housing, and immediate support upon program completion. This is not optional. This is necessary. I am not functioning. I am not okay, and I need help. I read it sitting at my desk at work, read it 3 times, each time feeling different things. So first time, skepticism. This was manipulation, using mental health as a shield, making himself untouchable by claiming victimhood. Second time, guilt. Maybe he really was suffering. Maybe the trust process really had damaged him. Maybe my objection really had hurt him worse than I'd intended. Third time, anger at him for weaponizing mental health, at myself for doubting him, at Grandpa for creating this impossible situation where I couldn't tell if my brother was genuinely in crisis or strategically repositioning. The objections came in fast. My objection, which I drafted carefully, trying to be clinical, trying to be fair, while mental health is critically important and I support my brother receiving appropriate care. This request appears to be a strategic reframing of his previous business funding request. The applicant has not provided medical documentation from a licensed mental health professional supporting the need for inpatient treatment at this extreme cost. Outpatient therapy is significantly more cost-effective and equally valid for most conditions. I recommend denial of inpatient funding and approval of $50,000 maximum for outpatient services, including therapy, psychiatric care, and medication. This would provide genuine support while maintaining fiscal responsibility. Richard Jr.'s objection was even harsher. This is emotional blackmail. The applicant is claiming mental health crisis as leverage to obtain funding after his business request was denied. If this is a genuine crisis, he should seek immediate emergency care through traditional channels. The trust should not be used to fund luxury mental health retreats. Recommend denial and referral to standard mental health resources. Linda's objection, $500,000 for therapy in Arizona? This is a vacation disguised as treatment. Absolutely not. Denied. Mum abstained again. Couldn't vote against her son's mental health. Couldn't vote for something she suspected might be manipulation. So she removed herself. Again. Michael abstained. Too exhausted to engage, too overwhelmed to judge. Jennifer, sweet, compassionate Jennifer, voted to approve. Her supporting statement was short. Mental health is health. If David says he's struggling, we should believe him. We should support him. That's what family does. The trust process has been traumatic. It has damaged relationships. If David needs professional help to heal from that trauma, we should provide it, not question it, not minimize it, not treat it as strategy. Just help him. I vote to approve the full amount. She sent me a copy of her statement, deliberately. Wanted me to see it, wanted me to know she was better than me, more compassionate, more kind, more human. And she was right, she was better than me. I was objecting to my brother's mental health treatment because I thought he might be lying, because I thought he might be manipulating, because I couldn't tell anymore what was real and what was strategy. Couldn't trust my own judgment, couldn't trust him, couldn't trust anyone. Martin took 2 weeks to decide. During that time, David stayed silent. No texts, no calls, no contact, just silence, which either meant he was genuinely suffering or he was strategically maintaining victim status, or both. Who could tell anymore? The decision, partial approval. $150,000 approved for outpatient mental health treatment. The trustee acknowledges the applicant's stated mental health needs and recognises that the trust process may have contributed to emotional distress. However, $500,000 for inpatient treatment at a luxury facility is excessive. Outpatient therapy is clinically appropriate for the described conditions and significantly more cost-effective. Approval of $150,000 provides comprehensive outpatient support, including individual therapy twice weekly, psychiatric care, medication management and crisis services for up to 2 years. This funding will support genuine mental health treatment while maintaining fiscal responsibility. The applicant is encouraged to begin treatment immediately. David took the money, sent a single text to the family group. Thanks for the scraps. Glad to know my mental health is worth $150K while Emma's mortgage is worth $1. Really shows family priorities. Then disappeared into therapy, and I sat there in my apartment, staring at his text, feeling empty, hollow, because I'd won. I'd objected successfully. I'd protected the trust from what might have been manipulation, but I'd also potentially denied my brother help he genuinely needed, had put a dollar value on his suffering, had calculated the cost-benefit analysis of his mental health, had treated his pain as a negotiation, and that knowledge that I was capable of that I'd done that, sat in my stomach like poison. Month 3 brought something that destroyed what little family unity remained. Mum's request. My mother, who'd stayed neutral, who'd tried to keep everyone together, who'd been heartbroken by our behaviour, who'd wanted us to invoke the escape clause and split everything equally, she submitted a request, and reading it broke my heart. Amount $8,000. Purpose, retirement security. Justification, and I'm going to quote it in full because the words mattered, the pain in them mattered. I'm 65 years old. I have worked my entire adult life, first as an elementary school teacher for 15 years, then as a full-time mother raising 3 children. I have approximately $1.2 million in retirement savings, which sounds substantial, but at my age, in New York City, with projected longevity of 20-30 years, it is insufficient. I face significant future costs: healthcare, potential long-term care, inflation, emergency reserves. I am requesting $8 million to ensure I can live with dignity and security without becoming a burden to my children. This is not about luxury. This is about basic security, about not worrying every day whether I'll run out of money before I die, about not having to ask my children for help when I need it, about maintaining independence and dignity in my final decades. I have never asked this family for anything. I have given everything, my time, my energy, my love, expecting nothing in return. But now I'm asking for security, for peace of mind, for the ability to age without terror. Please. I read it 3 times, each time crying harder, because Mum had never asked for anything, had spent her entire life giving, supporting, sacrificing, hosting dinners, maintaining traditions, trying to keep us together. And now she was asking, not demanding, not assuming, but asking for security, for the right to not be terrified of aging, for basic dignity, and she felt she needed to justify it, needed to explain why her retirement mattered, needed to argue for her own worth. The objections came in within 48 hours. Richard Jr. $8 million is excessive for retirement planning needs. A competent financial planner could structure a portfolio with $3-4 million that would generate sufficient income for a comfortable retirement. I recommend approval of $4 million maximum, which is more than adequate given Susan's existing $1.2 million in savings. Total assets of $5.2 million is extremely comfortable for a single person in retirement. Excessive, that word, applied to our mother's security, her peace of mind, her desire to not be terrified. Aunt Linda's objection was worse. Susan has always been the responsible one, the one who saved, the one who planned, the one who made good choices. I've been divorced twice. I've been left with nothing. I have no retirement savings, no property, no security. If anyone needs $8 million, it's me. But I haven't asked for it yet because I didn't want to seem greedy, because I was trying to be modest. And now my sister, my own sister, is asking for $8 million while I sit here with nothing. If Susan gets $8 million, I need at least that much. Otherwise, this is just rewarding people who don't actually need it, while those of us who are truly desperate get scraps. I object to the amount. Recommend $3 million maximum for Susan, which leaves funding available for family members with genuine emergency needs. Linda was arguing that Mum didn't deserve security because Linda had made worse choices, that Mum should get less because Linda needed more, that Mum's decades of responsibility should be punished while Linda's decades of irresponsibility should be rewarded. It was grotesque, insane, and probably effective because it reframed the conversation from what does Mum need to who needs more, Mum or Linda? And David, my brother, Mum's son, the person she'd raised and sacrificed for and supported through 3 failed businesses and endless bad decisions, objected. His objection made me want to scream. Mum doesn't need $8 million. She's using fear tactics, long-term care. medical costs. Burden to my children. This is emotional manipulation designed to make us feel guilty, so we'll give her more than she needs. She has 1.2 million in savings. She has social security. She'll be fine. I vote for 2 million maximum. That's more than enough when combined with her existing assets. 8 million is greedy, it's excessive, it's taking money that could go to people with genuine current needs rather than hypothetical future worries. He called Mom greedy, called her retirement needs hypothetical future worries, accused her of manipulation. I wanted to call him, to scream at him, to ask what the fuck was wrong with him. How could he do this to her? How could he vote against his own mother's security? But I knew exactly how, because I'd done the same thing to him, had objected to his mental health treatment, had calculated the value of his suffering, had treated his pain as negotiation. I'd taught him this. We'd all taught each other this. Had normalised treating family as adversaries, had made it acceptable to put price tags on each other's needs, had turned love into arithmetic. I submitted my vote, approve, full amount, $8 million. My supporting statement was simple. Mum has given her entire life to this family. She raised us. She supported us. She loved us unconditionally. She hosted Sunday dinners for decades, trying to keep us together. She sacrificed her career, her time, her energy. If anyone deserves security and peace of mind, it's her. I vote to approve the full $8 million. No conditions, no reductions. She earned this many times over. Michael voted approve. Full amount. No statement needed. Jennifer voted approve. With a statement that said simply, some things shouldn't require justification. A mother's security is one of them. Approved. 3 votes approve. Richard Jr., Linda and David voted deny or reduce. 3 votes against tie, which meant the decision went to Martin, to the trustee, to a lawyer who'd never met Mum before Grandpa died, who didn't know her sacrifices, her kindness, her decades of unpaid labour holding this family together. A stranger would decide whether my mother deserved security. The deliberation took 2 weeks. 2 weeks during which Mum stopped speaking to most of us. Not angry silence, just absence, distance. Hurt too deep for words. She answered calls politely, briefly, then found excuses to hang up. She stopped responding to group texts, stopped making plans, stopped trying. We'd broken something in her, something fundamental, the belief that her children loved her, that family meant something, that she mattered beyond her utility. Martin's decision approved for $5 million. The applicant has demonstrated legitimate retirement planning needs and has made reasonable arguments regarding long-term security. However, $8 million exceeds reasonable projections for a comfortable retirement, even accounting for inflation, healthcare costs, and potential long-term care needs. Approval of $5 million provides substantial security, 6.2 total with existing savings, while preserving trust funds for other heirs with demonstrated needs. This amount should provide more than adequate support for a dignified, comfortable retirement. $5 million, not the 8 she asked for, not what she felt she needed, what a lawyer decided she deserved, based on calculations and projections and reasonable estimates of how much security was enough. Mum took the money, didn't argue, didn't appeal, didn't fight, just accepted the decision and stopped participating in family events, stopped hosting Sunday dinners, stopped trying to keep us together. Because why would she? We'd voted against her, had argued she didn't deserve what she asked for, had put a price on her security and decided $8 million was too much but $5 million was acceptable, had treated her like a line item in a budget rather than the woman who'd given us life. And she was done trying to love people who demonstrated they'd choose money over her. Every single time we'd killed something in her, something essential, the belief that family was worth fighting for, that love could survive anything, that she mattered, and we'd done it for money, for the chance to maximise our shares, for the possibility of getting more. We'd traded our mother's heart for a bigger payout, and we'd done it deliberately, consciously, with full awareness of what it would cost, because winning mattered more than being good, because money mattered more than mom. And now we all had to live with that. Professional warfare. By month 4, the trust had distributed $7.4 million total, $1.7 million to me, $350K to Michael, $200K to Jennifer, $150K to David, $5 million to Mom. That left $492.6 million remaining. 6 heirs still active. Mum had withdrawn from future requests, said she was done. The temperature had changed. The competition had evolved. We'd moved past emotional appeals and family loyalty. Now, we were professionalising, strategising, treating this like business. Richard Jr. led the way. He'd learned from David's failure, learned that emotion and passion and vision weren't enough, that you needed structure, documentation, professional presentation. So his next request came not as a simple form submission, but as a complete business proposal. 47 slides, PowerPoint deck, charts, graphs, financial projections, market analysis, comparable sales data, expert testimonials, the whole corporate package. His request, $5,000 for family legacy real estate acquisition. The Hamptons house request. But this time, he'd reframed it entirely, not as personal luxury, as investment, as family infrastructure, as legacy building. The presentation opened with a mission statement: the Chen Family Legacy Property Initiative. Like it was a corporation, a project, an endeavour, rather than a beach house purchase. He'd broken down the costs. Property acquisition, 4.2 metres. Furnishing and preparation, $400K. Legal and transaction costs, $200K. First year maintenance reserve, $200K. He'd included projected property appreciation based on historical Hamptons real estate data, 7.2% annually over the past decade. Had calculated the family gathering ROI, his actual term, based on saved vacation rental costs if we all use the property 10 weekends per year. He'd gotten testimonials from real estate agents about the property being undervalued, letters from wealth management advisors calling it a sound investment, comparisons to similar properties that had appreciated significantly. He'd even created a usage agreement showing how all family members would have equal access, a rotation schedule, maintenance responsibilities. It was brilliance disguised as due diligence. It was, I want a beach house wrapped in so much professional packaging that it looked like fiduciary responsibility. The final slide killed me. This isn't about luxury, it's about legacy. It's about creating a place where the Chen family can gather for generations, where your children and grandchildren can build memories, where we can unite instead of fracture. Grandpa may have set us against each other, but we don't have to stay that way. We can build something that brings us together. That reminds us we're family. Vote yes on the Chen Family Legacy Property Initiative. Vote yes on family unity, using the family fracture as justification for buying a beach house, using our brokenness as proof we needed a gathering space, using Grandpa's manipulation as reason to let Richard get what he wanted. It was cynical, calculated, brilliant, and it almost worked. Linda voted to approve immediately. She wanted access to a Hamptons house, would kill for that kind of social capital. Michael abstained, didn't care either way. Mom voted to deny. She was done supporting anyone's legacy initiatives. I voted to deny because it was a beach house, not a necessity. Because Richard Jr. was trying to use professional presentation to hide personal desire. Because this was exactly the kind of thing the trust shouldn't fund. Jennifer voted to deny. She sent me her reasoning privately. Richard makes $800,000 a year. If he wants a Hamptons house, he can save for it like normal people. The trust shouldn't fund rich people's vacation homes while actual need exists. Denied. David voted to deny. Pure spite. He'd been denied. Now he'd deny Richard. Petty, vindictive, honest. 4 denials, 1 approval, 1 abstention. Richard's $5 million Hamptons house request denied. But he'd tried. He'd fought. He'd shown us all that professional packaging mattered, that presentation counted, that if you wrapped your selfishness in enough corporate language and strategic framing, you could almost make it look legitimate. The real genius of Richard's failed attempt was that it taught everyone else how to play better. Linda learned the lesson immediately. Her next request came with legal letterhead, professional formatting, citations of trust documents, references to case law and precedent. She'd hired an attorney, not Martin, he was the trustee, to help her craft a request that couldn't be denied. Amount $12,000 for comprehensive elder care security package. She'd broken it into itemised components: property acquisition, TUI MEPAs, purchasing apartment due to imminent loss of rent-controlled housing, extended medical insurance and long-term care coverage, 3 MELM, securing lifetime healthcare access beyond Medicare, living expenses for projected 30-year lifespan, 5 MELs, based on actuarial tables and current NYC cost of living, legal contingency fund, 2 MENs, for potential housing litigation, healthcare advocacy and estate planning. Each line item had supporting documentation, medical assessments, actuarial projections, legal opinions on her housing situation, market analysis for NYC real estate. It was a legal brief disguised as a trust request, and it was smart. Because how do you object to healthcare, to housing security, to living expenses? Each individual component was reasonable, defensible, but together they added up to more than most of us had requested, more than Mum had gotten, more than anyone except Richard's denied Hamptons house. The objections flooded in anyway. My objection, 5 pages carefully researched. While each individual component appears reasonable in isolation, the total amount of $12,000 is excessive and unprecedented. The applicant has not demonstrated that property acquisition, healthcare coverage, living expenses, and legal contingency funding are all simultaneously necessary. Additionally, the requested living expenses of $5 million over 30 years, $167K annually, exceed demonstrated current spending by significant margin. Recommend approval of 6 MEs maximum, 2 MEs for property acquisition, 2 MEs for healthcare coverage, 2 MEs for 15-year living expense cushion. This provides substantial security while maintaining equity with other distributions. Richard Jr.'s objection was harsher. This request represents strategic packaging of wants as needs. The the applicant is attempting to circumvent the trust's purpose by bundling multiple excessive requests into a single submission. If approved, this sets precedent that any heir can claim 12 million by itemising their entire projected life costs. Recommend denial of total package and evaluation of each component as separate request. Jennifer's objection cut deepest. Linda has lived beyond her means her entire life, made poor financial choices, refused to work or build independent income. Now she's requesting $12 million, more than double what my cousin Susan received for retirement, to maintain a lifestyle she never earned. The trust should prioritise genuine need, not reward decades of irresponsibility. Deny. But Linda's lawyer had anticipated the objections, submitted counter-arguments within 48 hours, pointed out that I'd gotten my mortgage paid, a lifestyle expense, that David had gotten therapy, a quality of life expense, that everyone had gotten something except Linda, that declining every single request she submitted while approving others' requests constituted discrimination, possibly even age discrimination. The counterbrief was 15 pages, cited employment law, elder rights legislation, fiduciary duty standards. It threatened, subtly, professionally, that if Linda was systematically denied while others were approved, she'd have grounds to challenge the trust administration in court. It was brilliant lawyering, turning family obligation into legal liability, making approval the safer option than denial. Martin took 3 weeks to decide, longest deliberation yet. He consulted outside counsel, financial planners, geriatric care specialists. He was terrified of making a decision that could be challenged, that could open him to liability, that could threaten the entire trust structure. His ruling, partial approval, $6 million. The request demonstrates significant planning and legitimate elder care concerns. However, the total amount of 12 manars exceeds comparable distributions and reasonable projections of need. Approval of $6 million provides 2 manars for property acquisition, addressing immediate housing crisis, 2.5 manars for comprehensive healthcare coverage and long-term care insurance, ensuring medical security, 1.25 bifas for living expense supplementation over 20 years, $75,000 annually, reasonable given NYC costs. Legal contingency fund denied as speculative. This distribution addresses the applicant's core security needs while maintaining overall trust equity. Linda took the $6 million immediately, without argument or complaint, which told me everything. She'd expected to be negotiated down, had requested 12 manars, known she'd get half, had played the game perfectly, asked for double what she actually wanted, so the compromise gave her exactly her target. She'd learned, we'd all learned. Ask for more than you need, because you'll get less than you ask for. Frame wants as needs, package desires as necessities. Hire professionals to make selfishness look like responsibility. The trust wasn't bringing out our worst selves. It was teaching us to hide our worst selves behind better language. Month 5 brought something that changed everything. David's nuclear option. He'd been quiet since taking his $150,000 therapy money. No contact with family, no submissions, no participation, just silence. We'd thought he'd withdrawn, given up, accepted his reduced payout and moved on. We were wrong. His next submission wasn't a request, it was a threat. Amount $25,000. Purpose? Complete family separation and trust withdrawal. His justification was devastating. I've failed at everything, every business, every relationship, every attempt at building something meaningful. The family has made it clear I'm not worthy of investment, that I'm a failure, that I'm less than everyone else. Fine, I accept that assessment, but I'm requesting $25 million to leave, to go somewhere else, to start over, to build a new life away from this family, away from the judgment, away from the competition, away from the constant reminder that I'm not enough. 25 million is less than my fair share of an equal distribution, approximately 81D divided by 6 heirs, accounting for current trust balance. But it's enough to give me freedom, to let me escape, to buy my way out of this family. You want me gone? Pay me. You want to stop dealing with my failures? Buy my absence. You want peace? Purchase it. 25 million, and I'll sign any document you want. I'll remove myself from future distributions. I'll give up any remaining claims. I'll disappear forever. Or you can deny this and I'll continue submitting requests, continue objecting to yours, continue making this process hell for everyone. I'll fight every distribution, appeal every decision, make the next 7 months absolutely miserable for all of you. Your choice, pay me to leave peacefully or pay the price of keeping me here. Either way, I'm getting something. You decide what it costs. It was extortion, blackmail, emotional hostage-taking, and also devastatingly honest. David was putting a price on his presence, on his participation in the family, on his continued existence in our lives. $25 million. That's what it would cost to be free of him, to not have to deal with his failures, his addiction, his need, his pain. He was selling us our peace. And the horrifying thing was, we all immediately started calculating whether it was worth it, whether paying him to go away would be cheaper financially, emotionally, strategically than keeping him around, whether his absence was worth $25 million. Mom called me crying, actually sobbing on the phone. He's serious, Emma. He's really going to leave. My son is going to take money and disappear forever because we made him feel like he doesn't belong, because we made him feel worthless. What do you want me to do? I asked, not rhetorical, genuinely asking, because I didn't know if supporting his request made me complicit in destroying our family or if opposing it made me cruel. Didn't know anything anymore. Vote to approve, Mum said, voice thick with tears. Give him the money, let him go, because keeping him here like this, fighting, suffering, being constantly reminded that he's not enough, that's worse. If he needs to leave to survive, to heal, to find peace, then let him go. With enough money to actually build something, to have a chance. 25 million might be a lot, but it's not worth more than my son's life, his mental health, his survival. It's more than you got, Mom, more than Linda, more than anyone except what would be an equal split. He's asking for more than his share to leave. I don't care about shares anymore, she said. I don't care about fairness or equity or any of it. I care about David, and if paying him to leave is what saves him, then that's what I'm voting for. The objections came immediately. Richard Jr., this is extortion, pure and simple. David is threatening to sabotage future requests unless we pay him to go away. This is blackmail. We cannot and should not negotiate with emotional terrorists. Setting this precedent means anyone can threaten to make the process difficult and demand payment to stop. We must deny this on principle, regardless of the strategic implications. Deny. Linda, $25 million to leave. I've been here suffering for 6 months and got $6 million. David wants 4 times that to abandon us, to quit, to give up. Absolutely not. If he wants to withdraw, he can do it with the $150,000 he already received. Nobody's stopping him from leaving. He doesn't need to be paid to do it. Deny. Jennifer's objection was more conflicted. I understand David's pain. I do. The trust process has been traumatic for all of us. But $25 million is an enormous sum for essentially giving up. For quitting. What message does this send? That if you threaten to make things difficult, you'll be rewarded? That the squeaky wheel gets the grease? I have a daughter to support on social work wages. Michael has years of underpaid residency ahead. We're not asking for millions to participate. We're showing up despite the difficulty, despite the pain. If we approve this, we're saying that threatening to leave is more valuable than choosing to stay. I can't support that. Deny. Michael, predictably, abstained. I don't have the emotional bandwidth to evaluate this. Do whatever you think is right. I'm out. That left me the deciding vote. Approve and David gets $25 million to leave forever. Deny and he stays, continues fighting, makes everything worse for everyone. Approve and we're paying family members to abandon us. Deny and we're forcing someone who's suffering to stay in a situation that's destroying him. I voted approve, not immediately. I sat with it for 3 days, agonised, made lists of pros and cons, talked to a therapist about it, talked to a lawyer about it, and finally decided, yes, pay him to leave. Not because he deserves $25 million, but because forcing him to stay is crueler than letting him go. Because his presence has become toxic for him and for us. Because some relationships can't be saved and trying only makes the damage worse. I submitted my vote with a statement. This is not extortion. This is a desperate person asking for an exit. David is suffering. We've all contributed to that suffering through our competition, our judgment, our treatment of him. If $25 million buys him freedom from us, from this process, from the constant reminder of his failures, then it's money well spent. Not because he's earned it, but because continuing this way will destroy him completely. I vote to approve because I'd rather have a brother who's absent but alive and maybe someday healed than a brother who's present but destroyed. Approved. Mum voted approve. Michael's abstention meant he didn't count. 3 denials, Richard, Linda, Jennifer. 2 approvals, me and Mum. 1 abstention. The request needed majority approval. It didn't have it. But Martin surprised us. Instead of denying based on the vote count, he proposed a counter offer. $15 million. The trustee recognises this is an unusual request that doesn't fit traditional distribution criteria. However, it represents a good faith attempt to resolve ongoing conflict and reduce future administrative burden. The requested 25 exceeds the applicant's proportional share. However, complete withdrawal of an heir would simplify future distributions and reduce conflict. The trustee proposes a compromise, $15 million distribution in exchange for complete, irrevocable withdrawal from the trust. The applicant would sign releases giving up all future claims. This resolves the immediate conflict while maintaining relative equity. Family vote required on counteroffer. $15 million, not what David asked for. More than anyone except Linda had gotten so far. Enough to actually build a life, enough to actually disappear. We voted again. This time, Richard Jr. voted approve. At 15 million, this becomes economically rational. We remove a source of conflict and objection. The remaining trust distributions become simpler. Approved. Linda voted deny still. He's getting more than me for doing less, for quitting. Not acceptable. Jennifer voted approve, reluctantly. If this is what it takes for David to find peace, fine, but I'm not happy about it. Approved. Me and Mum approve, obviously. 4 approvals, 1 denial, passed. Martin processed the paperwork within 48 hours. David signed releases removing himself from all future trust participation, gave up any claims to remaining funds, agreed to never contest any future distributions, sold his presence for $15 million. His final communication was an email, just to Mum. She showed it to me later, crying. I don't hate any of you. I'm just tired of competing, tired of failing, tired of feeling like I'm not enough. This money gives me a chance to build something away from the expectations, away from the comparisons. Maybe I'll fail again. Probably I will. But at least I'll fail on my own terms, without the family watching, without the judgment, without the constant awareness that I'm disappointing everyone just by existing. Thank you for voting. Yes, I know it cost you, but it saved me. I'm leaving the country. Southeast Asia probably. Somewhere cheap enough that 15 million is generational wealth. Somewhere I can be anonymous. Start over. Maybe find out who I am when I'm not Richard. Chen's grandson, not the failed entrepreneur, not the family disappointment, just David, whoever that is. I'll send you a forwarding address when I'm settled. Or maybe I won't. Haven't decided. Take care of yourself, Mum. You deserve better than this family gave you, better than I gave you. I'm sorry I wasn't what you needed me to be. David. And just like that, my brother was gone. Bought out, paid to disappear, removed from the family for money. The trust dropped to $471.6 million, 5 heirs remaining, 6 months left. And we just established a new precedent. Family members were products. Their presence or absence had a price. Love wasn't unconditional. It was approximately $15 million, negotiable based on circumstances. We'd turned relationships into transactions, connection into commerce, family into a market where everything could be bought and sold, and we'd all agreed to it, voted for it, made it real. That's what we'd become. And we still had 6 months left, still had almost $500 million to fight over, still had so much more damage to do, to ourselves, to each other, to whatever remained of the family that used to gather for Sunday dinners and actually mean it when we said, I love you.